Well, you can, yeah. Okay, you're live. Okay. So we're gonna do this here. We're gonna go share there.
Oh, I need to, I'll share it with the community. I switched from a bag to a purse and I still can't find anything.
I guess we're gonna type things in there.
Is my phone. I would be right there. Oop.
It's fine. We're in the conversation. What do you call Okay, I'm gonna click post. And I'm gonna try to go share again. Well, I tell you, if you get your, you could share
Yeah.
what's happening in Pelham.
See, let me. Is it on? Okay, it's on the standing for United page.
That's on too. Okay, I can say hello tonight, right? Yes, sir.
Pretty sure.
Oh, yeah. I got a question for you. Okay. So we're saying, we want you Yeah. Right down the street. Couple stands. Doesn't help with the mask on. Hey, guys. Hey, sir. Very decent. Yeah. Take it off. Maintain distance there. Yeah, that's what I want, but since I went to the church, it's good. How are you? Good to see you. Thank you for tuning in. Great.
Hmm. What's the Pelham community one called?
Well, what's happening in Pelham?
What's happening? Okay.
That's on too. That's great. That's great. David, you go Awesome. Welcome back.
Yeah. Everybody in there is get somebody to go there and tell a joke.
Yeah.
I can't tell a joke in the mixed company. Okay.
Good to be seen.
Must be time to get started here because my clicker's not working. Technology can't get the best of us, so.
Cheered on.
On June the 28th, I shared with our community and those that was watching via, at that time, Zoom Live and Facebook Live, I shared that the United States of America has over 330 million people. Also shared about Alabama has 4.9 million people. And here in Alabama, we have 169 cities, 291 towns, 67 cities, And we decided to move here and live in Pelham. And the question is, why? I share that we have a unique thing. We're in the top 10 for the best places to live. We're in the top 10 for the best places to raise a family. Our school system, we have new schools, 2 new schools. We have millions of dollars invested for renovations in our schools. So maybe that's the reason we're here in Pelham. So the question is, if we live in here, let's work together to enhance our community. Let's work together to set the standard for others to follow. Also mentioned on June 28th, the reason we was here because in May, we witnessed a tragic incident in Minneapolis, not only in our country, but around the globe. And I was hearing and seeing a lot of movement within our state. I should say a lot of noise within our state, in our country. I was talking to some of our leaders, and I asked them what their thoughts were if I facilitated a structured conversation in Pelham. And so we generated a survey which focused on 3 areas. So June 28th, we rolled out the survey. Each one of you came in and signed in. You should have received a agenda. On the back side of that is the survey results. We also had our mayor actually presented a proclamation acknowledging, despite the turbulent times of our country, but as a city, we want to acknowledge the turbulent time, but also we're going to take a pledge and a commitment within our city to make sure we promote equality everywhere. So once again, I want to appreciate our leadership for their support, appreciate the mayor for the proclamation. I appreciate you and our rest of the citizens in our community for taking the survey. But without putting the survey to action steps, we just make it noise. So that's why we're here today, to talk about action items for our survey. So once again, I'd like to welcome everyone here. My name is Kenneth Pascal. I'm the president of the Alabama Family Rights Association. I'm a resident of Pelham. I lived here since for 12 years. Before then, I had an opportunity to travel throughout our country in the United States Army. So I tell people I retired from the United States Army. Retired now, that means you're supposed to kick back and relax, right? But I continue to serve the Army. There's no expiration date on that. So that is my goal in life, to continue to serve in the Army, but in God's Army. So with that, before we get started, I think it's appropriate that we open up with our prayer. I would like to ask one of our local, my screen is locked up here. We open up in prayer while we're doing that. I'm going to try to work on this technology here. I think we got it going here. Yes. I ask Pastor Jason if you would press the home button there and open us over to prayer. That's definitely appreciate it.
Let's bow our heads and pray. Heavenly Father, we just thank you. We thank you for this opportunity we have to come together. We come in the name of Jesus Christ, one and only, the Prince of Peace. And God, we just pray. We pray, God, for leaders that bring peace, equality, unity, justice. And Father, we just pray for our governmental leaders. We pray for everyone that's in this room right now. Father, we know that if any man lacks wisdom, you said that you would give it liberally. Mm-hmm. And we need wisdom. We need wisdom. And as Solomon could have asked for anything else, as a king, he asked for wisdom. God, you granted him not only wisdom, but all the other things. We seek you first, your kingdom, and and the other things will be added. God, I pray that our eyes will be fixed on you, that our hearts will be drawn to you, that our minds, they think on you. You give us clarity of thought. God, you will give us innovation, creativity, and you'll give us, God, the place of unity, that we come in unison, God. We pray for equality. We know that is a fight against what we have. God, we come with different nationalities and different backgrounds, different ages. We come with one purpose, and that's to unify. Now, God, give us help. God, you said you are very present help in the time of need and trouble. And we ask for that today. And over the next few moments, God, I pray that solutions can come to the table. God, and more than just word, but in deed. God, that you will help us come up with the things that we need to talk about, to be heard. And God, that it'll be more than just hearing what we others are saying, but God, that there's a place of action. Because you are a God of action. We ask these things in Jesus' name. And everybody said,
Amen.
Pastor Jason, thank you. Thank you so much there. I think I have my electronic device working here. As you see on the screen here, about why? Hell, I think when somebody got up early Monday morning, went out by the flagpole with the Helen Park wreck, and just pray not only for our city, not only for our state elected officials, not only for our state, but the entire country. So I just want to say special thanks to our the Helen clergy that went out Monday morning and just lift up, just actually brought the spirit in here before we came in here today. So I just want to say appreciate our clergy for doing that. And that's once again what makes us so unique, so special. Just a recap, as mentioned, June the 28th, we talked about the top 5 things that the community said they felt was important to them. I just want to emphasize this slide, the top, community and individuals. The survey said, look at home first. Look at your community first. And I'm just really excited to dig into those action items in a few minutes because our community has spoken. They said, listen, this is what we feel is important for our community. This is what I think is important for our kids. This is important for our entire department. Not just the police department, but our public works in the entire city. A recap of law enforcement. Once again, we went over this June the 28th, the top 5 things that the citizens felt was important. If the law enforcement implement these things, our citizens feel that Pelham is less likely to ever see any type of activities that we saw and that we've been seeing around the country. So once again, I appreciate the feedback from our community. And a recap of, we can't do it without our local and state elected officials. But once again, just a recap of the top 5 things our citizens feel that's important. If our elected officials incorporate this, support these, because some of this stuff costs money. We're going to get into the meat of this here shortly. But once again, if you're on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, you can go to Standing United for Progress 2.eventbrite.com. If you scroll down, you can click on this entire package. So if you're on Facebook, YouTube, and you can't see the screen, you can access this here online also. So once again, while we're here today, we want to continue the conversation, but we want to be different. We've talked good the last 3-4 months. Now it's just time to talk about action items. Action items.
What you're about to see is an example.
Got to start over.
Hi, I'm Officer Ileana Yagawa with the Pelham Police Department. What you're about to see is an example of a traffic stop scenario. Keep in mind that every traffic stop is different. police officer pulls you over, they're gonna tell you why you got pulled over, and they're gonna ask for your driver's license and your insurance. Well, what we would like is for, before you start reaching for anything, just, you can tell us that you're about to reach for your wallet, or when we first approach the vehicle, just, kind of maintain your hands on the steering wheel, just not make so many sudden movements.
Sorry, officer, I wasn't expecting you on this
No,
side.
that's okay. I'm Officer Erica with the Forum Police Department. The reason I pulled you over is because you were speeding. Do you have your driver's license for insurance?
I do. My wallet's in my front pocket. You want to reach out?
Go ahead. If you do have a weapon, for example, the glove compartment, knowing your insurance is there and the officer does ask you for your insurance, just let the officer know that the insurance is there along with your gun, so that, the officer will feel a little bit more relaxed that you told them that there was a weapon. And, you shouldn't just reach in there and get it, because it's going to put the officer at high alert just by seeing a weapon in the glove compartment before you notify them that you have it.
I do have my insurance in my glove compartment.
Okay, just leave your gun in the glove compartment, and once I run your tag, I'll see if your insurance is attached to it. So, but since your gun's in the vehicle, will you do me a favor? Will you just step out just during the traffic stop? Thank you. The reason I pulled you over is because I observed a traffic violation, whether it's speeding, improper usage, or failure to signal. I observe a violation. So when I turn my lights and sirens on to conduct the traffic stop, I don't know who you are. I don't know anything about you until I speak with you, until I approach the vehicle and ask for your driver's license or insurance. Then I know who you are. But prior to that, all I know is that a certain driver of this vehicle committed a traffic violation. Second. At the end of the day, the driver, the person being pulled over, is going to dictate how the traffic stop is going to go. When the officer requests a driver's license, proof of insurance, and even if the driver doesn't agree with a violation, they will receive a court date. If they get a citation, they will receive a court date, and that's the place to go argue the violations. All right, I'm not going to write you any tickets or anything. I'm just going to give you a verbal warning. If you do me a favor, just slow down. I want you to get to your destination safely.
Okay, thank you.
All right, take care. I hope you have found this video to be helpful. If you feel free to reach out to us.
That is a result of the last meeting we had. The chief of police saw the comments from our community and saying that's an important topic. Many people are unaware that the biggest interaction between citizens and law enforcement, not just in Alabama, but throughout our country, is traffic stops. So it kind of makes sense. If we can bridge that gap, we can only enhance the relationships within our community. But also, I think it would make our entire community much better, because what I saw is basically just common courtesy, treating each other as human beings, and you have good outcomes that way. When we get to our comment section, I would love feedback from the audience, and also online, also from this video. This video can be accessed Pelham Police Department YouTube, and also on the Pelham Police Department Facebook page. They wrote this out Thursday before last, and it has been viewed on Facebook almost 4,000 times already. So it's circulating, it's been shared 47 times in the Hispanic community, and 45 times throughout the other communities. So once again, great job from our police department. I can't wait to get feedback from my audience here shortly. As mentioned, this was the top item for our community, for our polls. It's a public safety education. So the question is saying, how can we continue or enhance our education safety? In your package, I'm just going to highlight a couple of things. National Night Out, we do it once a year, every year. I was talking to all the chief and the other officers, and they said they would love to implement on site what to do to get stopped. National Night Out is one of the largest events we have each year doing the law enforcement. So we're really excited about it, that opportunity to have a national night out, have a hands-on training opportunity. I see we have one of our school board members in the audience here, talking with our other school board members. My question to them, to the school board was, do we still have driver's education? In a while since I've been in school now. So I asked the question, do we still have driver's education in our high school? And the answer was yes. So I shared this video and I shared this thought. I said, what about, can we implement this training into driver's education within our high school? And once again, we want to set the standard for the entire country, the entire state, the nation to follow us. So the police chief is excited about this. I'm excited. Our city council, I shared it out here with the city council this past Monday. The school board they meet coming up this Monday, but I know there are a lot of other things going on besides video right now. Of course, trying to get the kids back in school. But that's just one item. Our Pelham Public Library, they have a teens program. I spoke to the library about implementing the video in their teens program. They're receptive to that. Park and Rec. Special events at the Park and Rec. I spoke to our Park and Rec director. He said, yes, what a great opportunity to have our own site. What to do to get stopped. So, without the survey, without having a structured conversation with June 28th, I don't know if we'll be here today. Let's talk about the great things and potential that we have in our community. So, this is just one item out of the top 5 in our community. Next month, we're gonna roll something else out. Each month, we keep rolling something out. We gotta have action items. Then we come back and do assessment and say how we're going overall. So that's just one item in the community individual. Now, law enforcement department. Now, we're talking about law, order, justice, best practices. We saw the video. I think one of the items, I don't want to put you on the spot there, but could you come to me, turn your own, it's an on button there? It's not. Okay, hear me. So can you introduce yourself and then let us know where Chief at too there?
He's on vacation, and you may not need me to use a microphone, but my name's Doug Sutcliffe. I'm one of the police officers here at the city of Pelham, and I've been here since December of 2001. So I'm a little bit invested in the program and the department, and we love the city.
Well, Captain, definitely thanks for coming out. But I tell you, just for the sake of the online, so they can hear you, we try to use our mic.
Yes, sir.
Carrie, if they can't hear, let us know.
Can you guys hear me? Is that better?
Sir, the top 5, I'll just, well, I tell you, first of all, the conversation with the police chief has been great and awesome. I'm not going to reveal our conversation. I'm going to let him do it when he come off, but he do want to come back and say, because the police department is doing a lot of these things already. So if you could just share one item, one of the top 5 items on law enforcement was transparency. They state more technology and use of cameras. So there's no can you guys accomplish that, or are you already doing that, or just let us know the status of the cameras?
Heidi, as far as the cameras go, when I came here in December of 2001, we had already implemented vehicle or dash cameras in every uniform patrol car. So if you see a marked police car, it's going to have a camera in it. We are still running that. Of course, technology has changed. It's now all digital. It's maintained here at the police department on the server, so there are no physical tapes or discs that have to be removed or messed with in the car. That is downloaded the moment the officers come in from their shift. They can park. That car is constantly downloading if they allow it to. Okay, so it goes straight to the computer server here at the police department where it is protected, and that is kept and maintained. And it goes along with our release of records policies. So in order to get that, that's usually through subpoenas, or when it comes to court, you're allowed to look at it then. So I'll get back to our dash cams in a moment, but every uniformed patrol officer or officer who is expected to go out into the field, who has contact regularly with the public, or who may have to take enforcement actions, they have a body camera. So not only do we have video, which could be evidence later while they were in the car or what's going on with the car that they plan on stopping, it's going to have an intimate interaction with the officer and the public at all times. Now again, body cameras, they have limitations. They're not always going to see what officers see because of the way they mount on the body. So if he turns his head to look at something, him or her, it may not pick up the same thing. But we will have as much video and evidence as possible. So going back to the dash cam, those cameras are set up with a continual loop. And the reason I bring this up is because of the loop prior to an officer activating that camera or activating their blue lights to pull someone over, it is going back approximately 2 minutes and start recording. So why is that important? We hope that it catches the probable cause or the reason to support why they stop someone. Because if you're like me and you ever got pulled over as a kid, there's no way I did what they said. So that's what we're trying to prevent. We want everyone to see what the officer saw or the reasoning behind the stop. We're not out there trying to deceive. We're not out there trying to hide the fact. We bring that evidence to court. We give everybody a chance to look at it because people make mistakes sometimes, okay? So we want you to be able to see what that officer said or is saying that happened, and we hope that it's on video so there are no questions and everyone sees that we're being transparent about what we're doing.
Well, definitely thanks. And like I said, it's only one item, was the top 5. But talking with the chief of police, we got one of the different items on the survey. He said, well, Kenneth, we implemented that. You know, at one time, we did not have the funds to ensure that every vehicle or every law enforcement pathway. So over a period of time, Pelham has grown as it went to the city council and the leadership. So once again, educating the leadership on the importance of having such technology. Pelham, not every department in our state have this means. So once again, we are blessed to live in Pelham and have our mayor and our city council support our law enforcement force, ensure that every officer has a body cam and every vehicle has a dash cam. I was talking to the officer Friday when we checked out our connectivity, and he was sharing he's responsible for picking up the new vehicles, making sure everything's lined up. That's one of the things his responsibility is, make sure that the dash cam works and so forth. And but thank you for your comments there. And we're going to come back to our local and state elected officials. We don't have a state, but we have some local elected officials. We're going to get them after our panel discussion. Last time, when June 28th, we had a panel. It was called Walking Our Shoes. I have asked feedback from several people, and they said that was very helpful, just in different perspective of different people. So this time, I'd like to move to our Walking Our Shoes panel. I'll ask our panelists to please come forward, maintain your social distance as you come. Get your spot here. We have Sean here on this side. We have the captain here on the center. We have Karen here. If the panelists, y'all please come up. We have Tony on the end here. The chairs, they are in a position where you 6 feet apart there. So, but still, we want to maintain there. In front of you, you have a mic, and in the front, you have a press button there, and it actually makes your mic become live. The reason I said it, you press it, you come live, and release it. You can talk about the guy to your left and right, but if you have it pressed down, you can't talk about the other person, they'll probably hear you. That's a joke. Okay. What I'm going to ask our panelists to do, I'm going to ask each panelist, starting from our left to right, starting with Tony, we're going to come down. We're going to ask each panelist to take up to 2 minutes to share a personal experience or observation of dealing with law enforcement or racism. And the reason I want to highlight this, we all have different walks, different experiences. And once again, we're just trying to create a dialogue and once again, give us different perspectives within our community. So Tony, could you, each panelist, just introduce yourself and share how long you've been in Pelham, and then share your observation or experience.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tony McKinney. I'm a resident of Pelham. Been here since 2011. We moved here from North Carolina. And I want to say thanks to Kenneth and the leaders here in the community for putting this together. I always grew up that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And so this is an awesome forum for us to have in our community. And I'm very grateful to be able to raise children right here in Pelham, Alabama. My experience with law enforcement over the years, for me, I was taught at a young age that the expectations of me were probably going to be different than they were for other people. My dad kind of drilled that into us at a very young age. And I can remember as a youngster, kind of like, as you said before, getting pulled over. I didn't do those things they pulled me over for, but I got pulled over nevertheless. A couple times in my community, from Raleigh, North Carolina is my hometown, very similar to the upbringing I've had here. My kids are happy here in Pelham, but got pulled over numerous times for suspicion. My car fit the description. I've been on the side of the road and my car's been searched multiple times. And at that time, 16, 17 years of age, I didn't have a preconceived notion that cops were bad. I am a very pro-law enforcement officer person. In fact, I wanted to be a police officer. Years ago, my wife told me no. Fortunately, we're still married today, but that's good. And so what I realized at a young age also was that the way that traffic stop went, kind of like the officer said in the video, was really up to how the person responded. And I think that in our community, we have to be responsible for how we carry ourselves. I can't control anybody else in this room, and if anybody is a parent here, you know how difficult it is to control somebody. You can pay for them, you can feed them, you can take care of them. You still can't really tell them what to do in every situation. So when I take that into teaching my children about traffic stops, I teach them to, I want them to understand that you have a lot to do with it. This goes back. And I think a lot of people are missing that component today, particularly of various communities. We have so much information, we've been bombarded with preconceived notions that if I go a certain direction or a certain way, it may reflect on me differently. I've been 6'7", 225, I was 6'6", 225 in 10th grade. So I was never a little person, and I always was aware of that, had to be cognizant of that and how I use my voice, my mannerisms, all those things played a big part into how this traffic stop was going to go for me. So I do want to say that, kind of a old cliche, if it is to be, if I'm to go home, if it is to be, it's up to me kind of thing. And that's the one thing I want to try to teach my children and the people that I come across with in the community. You're responsible for yourself, but know that there are going to be some things that they're calling me out, but know that there are going to be some things that you can do to make it better or worse for yourself. Thank you.
Tony, definitely thanks for sharing. And we go to Karen. Just briefly, who you are, how long you've been in Pelham, and then share your experience observation.
Hello, my name's Karen. I guess I'm one of the newer citizens here in Pelham. I've been here about 3.5 years. I was thinking about this earlier for a while. I felt that I have seen and experienced two sides with law enforcement, but recently, I'm not thinking back to it, I feel like it's been more like 3 sites. I'm gonna keep them all very short because of time. Growing up as an immigrant and brown person, we were taught to avoid the police because in some instances, people we knew they would go from like a traffic stop to ICE coming engaged. Good experiences though. This happened the first year that I moved here to Pelham. I was a sexual and domestic abuse victim, and I had 2 Pelham police officers come out and help, and they were great. Everything went smoothly, and I really appreciate them for that. And most recently, I have been part of the protests going on in the city of Hoover. I have seen my friends and allies because we were designated a place to go protest. But I have seen and experienced them get chased into where we can protest and push people away, including myself, to arrest people. So I think at the end of the day, what I've learned with these experiences at 26 years old is that we need to be open to listen to people. By talking is how you understand each other. We can't point fingers, just one person, one race, one group of individuals. We gotta learn to listen and talk and be empathetic. And hopefully by doing things like this, we can come to a solution where we can coexist as an actual community. And again, I love what Canada is doing. I really appreciate that the mayor and the city council is willing to listen to people, and for Pelham to hopefully be an example for other cities to follow.
All right, definitely, thank you. I have a question for you, Karen. One thing that we're trying to do is have this conversation with all people, everyone, the demographics make up, that have everybody involved. As I look in the room here, I consider myself, I have failed at that. So I'm going to ask you, if you could help facilitate the next meeting we have. I would love to have more of a diverse group, more of the Hispanic community. I know we talked about the difference between the generations. Some generations might not be receptive to it because of the past experiences, but moving forward, we want to continue this conversation, but we want to also make sure we work on purpose to have the diverse group and Hispanic community be part of all of our conversations. So thank you for coming out.
Again, my name is Doug Sutcliffe. I've been here since December of 2001, yet I started my career in 1992 in another city. And needless to say, as a law enforcement officer, I have seen good times and I have seen the bad times. And this has evolved into the bad times again. However, the city of Pelham and our community has never failed to support the police department. And I count that on the fact that our guys and gals are going out there and doing what is necessary. And that is interacting. As a supervisor, I've received complaints. I've had people come in and tell us of instances they felt were biased race or race-biased policing. And some people do not understand sometimes that there are a lot of methods and procedures that we have to go through in order to investigate these complaints. Not only do we have to have due process for the accused or the officers involved, we have personnel rules that we follow. We have civil service law that we follow as well. So there are procedures we try to go through to make sure that we do everything that is equitable towards that complaint. Doing that is a little bit slower process than people understand or willing to accept. And that's where sometimes they get frustrated with us, and in several cases, we are all labeled racist. And that is what we want to avoid. And that's why we want to continue participating in this process, in this program, and being available for people to come in and talk with us. We encourage officers to go out into the field and interact, not in just enforcement activities, but just to get to know the community and our business owners. And hopefully they are doing that. If it wasn't for COVID, I would hope every officer in this building would shake your hand and greet you in and out, hospitably. But unfortunately, we're maintaining our distances and doing things I never thought we'd be doing. Knuckle bumps and elbow bumps as greetings. But again, we are here to help. We are here to be part of the community. At no point do we want to have a negative connotation of the police department, nor do we want the image to be tarnished by things that are going on across the country. So I thank Mr. Pascal for starting this and coming to us with what are national issues and bringing them to a local level. And hopefully we as a group, we as a community can work together, communicate together, and work our way through this.
Okay, well, definitely thanks. I have a question for you. But in fact, I have a question for the audience here, and I was going to wait till the end, but we do need to work on our community relations as far as doing different events in our community. I know we do National Night Out, but let's talk with some of the people in the community, the different subdivisions, and how can we potentially do something in different communities that way they will know who we are. Because let me see a show of hands if y'all know Captain Doug, y'all know him before today. Y'all seen him from just being engaged in our community. So I know I spoke with Chief, we're gonna work on that. And but once again, appreciate you being here today. Appreciate you sharing your experiences, especially from the reception. It's a lot of protocol, but yet it can be received as something else. So we're gonna work on that. But definitely thank you for being here. Sean?
Once again, my name is Sean O'Neill. I'm really thankful, Mr. Kenneth, for inviting me onto the panel. And lived in Pelham since 2006, and this year I'm a rising senior at the high school, so I'm looking forward to that. But so to start first with my interactions with police officers, I want to say that they're very limited, to be honest. I haven't had many interactions with police officers, but some of the greatest interactions I've had are at school with the SROs that have served at the schools I've gone through over the years, even at the intermediate school. I remember Officer Bowman, who was there. I don't know if any of y'all know her, but she taught us taught us through the DARE program, drug prevention program, and from that, and then even out in the high school with Officer Chapman and Officer Campbell. They're always smiling, and I see them every morning out at the carpool line or at the bus line, and I think that's awesome that they're engaged with us as well. And I want to mention along with that when it comes to, as you just mentioned previously, knowing police officers so that we feel connected with them and not distant from them, it's important, as Mr. Tony mentioned at the beginning, that we decide personally to take a step out and to reach out and get to know them, because otherwise I believe it's likely they already somewhat feel distant, as from my perspective, as the guardian of the community or as our protectors. So it's up to us to, at least in my perspective, to step out and shake their hand when we're able, or smile at them, and to get to know their name, especially when we pass them every day in the school halls or wherever we may be. One other example of time I've interacted with police officers in our neighborhood on the 4th of July. We were in our intersection, the main block in our neighborhood, starting to shoot fireworks at dusk, and a neighborhood, someone who actually lived 3 or 4 houses down, I believe, I could be incorrect, but I believe his name is Lieutenant Pitts, and he was very kind. He rolls up and asks, I'm going over, but he asked us to tell him, he reminds us of the ordinance not to be shooting fireworks, and he kindly explains the ordinance and informs us all, which I was very happy with, and it reminds me to say that I didn't realize it'd be so quick, but I believe that some of the main root cause of the issues that we have, whether it be citizens accusing cops of racism or accusing other citizens of racism, all derive from ignorance or an unwillingness to be curious or reach out and gain greater understanding. And You said in the at the prayer at the beginning that God will grant us wisdom, but I believe we have to seek it. It says that we have to seek wisdom and knock on the door and it will be open. But we have to take the step forward in order to bridge those gaps between different cultures in the community. We have to walk across the bridge into the other side and get to know the people that are otherwise seem distant from us. So.
Definitely, thanks. And got we're young, still high school seniors this year. But thank you for being part of this panel. It's called Walking Our Shoes because different format, I would question what you're saying. But in this, well, each one of you, but in this format, I can't question, and no one can question what you're saying because it's walking in your shoes. You just have to share your experience, your observation. We appreciate that. You know, it speaks volumes when you do that. And each time we'll have a different people from the community that share that. Well, thank y'all again. And we're gonna do something different this time here. I know we're gonna keep pushing for time here, but we're gonna kind of open up to the community for some comments. I want to ask our, this can be an uncomfortable topic. If you turn the TV on, you see all kinds of stuff taking place in our communities throughout the country. But any issues that exist, there's one group of individuals that always have an answer to anything. So with that, we're going to have a panel of clergy come up there. You know, our panelists, I'm going to, you should have I need you to chair, I think you should have a card with your name on it. I'm going to ask our panelists to come up there. We're going to switch. We're going to have you come up on the, not the hot seat, but the stage here. And I thought it was appropriate to mainly because once again, Pelham, I think a little bit unique as far as we have a group of clergy that's, I think they've been meeting for the last 4 years or longer than that. And they continue to pray for our city, even when we don't think they're praying for our city. Even when the country's not in turbulence, they're praying for our city. And so during the dialogue, the conversations, I said, well, why don't we actually have our clergy speak from the spiritual standpoint? Because this turbulence in our country is touching everyone. So I'm going to ask the same question of our panelists here. Briefly introduce yourself, share what church you're with, and how long you've been here in Pelham. But I'd like for you also to share 2 minutes of your personal experience or observation dealing with the law enforcement or racism. And we start from our left, come back to our right. Ladies first, as always, right?
Thank you. I certainly appreciate you sharing that. Ladies first. Yeah. You guys get that?
Jerry, you got that?
Certainly, giving honor to God. He is the head of our lives. So we are honored to have this forum as God opening up with the Word of God in prayer. So thank you for that. Thank you to Kenneth, to our mayor, to our city council, to all the staff that made this happen. We are certainly thankful and grateful that you are taking a step forward to be the change in our community. Pastor Jerry and I pastor at Kingdom Christian Church here in Pelham. We've been here approximately 10 years. We moved here from Washington State, Seattle, Washington. So we came from the opposite side of the nation to come here to Alabama. A lot of our friends said, what in the world are you doing? But we have implanted ourselves in the community. We are a big part of our community. We love our community. My experience with the Pelham Police Department is twofold. I work with the Pelham Police Department in different capacities and different events. So I have great relationships with many of the police officers in our community. in some instances, having them come to the church and speak with our youth. That's a great opportunity for our youth to see real live professionals, police officers that can speak to them, that can touch them, that can answer some of the questions, some of the fears that they have. That has really been exciting. It's been important part of what we do and what we do for our youth. The second one is I've been here 10 years and I've been stopped by the Pelham police officers twice. One was warranted, and it brings up great emotion and great passion because the one that was warranted wasn't the one that I was feeling some kind of way about. The one that wasn't warranted, police officers were very respectful. They were, kind and courteous. Here's one example I can share with you. I was coming, everybody knows where the Sonic is, the new Sonic in Pelham. I was turning in the right lane. The pavement markings, I crossed those pavement markings. You know those white pavement markings, you're actually supposed to pass those before you actually drive on them. I actually drove on them, and I was stopped. He told me why he stopped me. You were stopped because you were on the white pavement markings. Okay, the car just before me did the exact same thing. He wasn't stopped, but I did do it. 3 police cars showed up. I immediately called Pastor Jerry on the phone. I was on the phone, I've been stopped. Didn't know why I was stopped, but he told me exactly what it was. You drove over those white markings and you should have waited and passed those white markings before you crossed over. However, he was very courteous, he was very kind, and he just gave me a warning. The other one brings up a lot of emotions. He called me idiot, and it was very disrespectful. I know I'm out of time, but I just want to share this one thing. We as clergy, there's a scripture in Philippians 4:7 that says that God gives us a peace that surpasses all of our understanding. It will guard our hearts and our minds. And that's where we put our faith and our trust in, what God will do, that He will give us such a peace.
But thank you for sharing that, and once again, that's what we need to hear. Is we have good experiences, bad experiences, and we know the key thing to all of that is relationships. So we'll continue working on that, and definitely thanks for sharing. And
Jason.
Pastor Jason, okay.
Hi, I'm Pastor Jason Hall. My wife Sandy and I are at Pelham Church of God on 52 East, over there next to Publix, Fire Hall, Golden Bowl Barbecue, and so we've been here only 11 months, so we're really new to the area. I have really good experiences from the Pelham Police Department. They camp out a lot in our parking lot. Must be a very good vantage point coming off 52, off the hill coming that way. But I feel safe. I feel good about them being there. They're very courteous, very kind. Every time I go by, I wave or talk to several of the officers that are there. We had an incident a couple of months back. We had this gentleman that was trying to sleep on our porch, and we worked through that situation. They're very, very courteous and kind. And I look at it, I remember I have 2 daughters. One is 21 and one is 18. And I remember my 18-year-old saying, "Dad, the police are always over there." And I said, "Baby, that's a good thing. They're here to protect us. Their presence being there on our premise is a positive thing. It helps deter people from doing any kind of shenanigans, possibly. But it is, I've got a personal, very, very good experience with them. And in my past, I was raised, my father was raised in Detroit, Michigan, which was a little bit different back in the 60s. But my father raised me as far as any kind of law enforcement to respect them, to trust them. I know there's a lot of negativity that's floating around. There's a lot of things that are happening. And as a pastor, we're having to navigate those things, whether it's race, or whether it's those in authority over us, or whether it's a leader of a country. I think it's very important for us to pray for those people. As our student said a few moments ago, we have to ask for that wisdom. And I believe God will give it to us. It's difficult. These are very difficult times to live in. As a pastor, to try to want to be praying for somebody that has whether minor or major surgery. I've performed, since I've been here, I've been a part of 8 funerals. And it's very difficult for those which have been since the pandemic. And so it's a very trying time. And I think forums like this, understanding how we walk in each other, to be heard in the shoes of one another, whether it's the social justice or social justice, I think we can navigate these times if we listen to one another, be sensitive, and treat others as we want to be treated.
Pastor Jason Duffin, thanks for sharing the Pastor Todd.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. It's such an honor to be here. I guess I'll get right to it and just mention that I am the pastor of Dayspring, right on the road here near the Cracker Barrel. Everybody knows where the Cracker Barrel is in 31. Also Harley Davidson back in that area. We've been in the area now since 2013. Moved actually to Pelham in 2016. I've personally never been stopped, by any law enforcement person here in Pelham. I've lived too long to revisit, the many different times I've had instances where I have been stopped. But I must agree with the gentleman on the first panel that said at the end that oftentimes I was stopped simply because I fit a particular social profile. And you grow up with that realization. And even if your parents do not teach you that, you learn that from the community that you grow up in. It is but by the grace of God that He rescued me at 19 years of age and turned my path. And so today I sit in front of you without a police record. I sit in front of you never having been in jail. I sit in front of you with no felony on my record, but that's because of the cross, not because of me. It is not because I have never been stopped unlawfully. It is not because I have not either also too done some things wrong. But what I realized through this troubling time and long before now is that in much the same way that wearing a robe and stepping into a pulpit does not make a man perfect, putting on a badge does not either. And so I think that there are times where we have to be careful not to hold people at such a high esteem, because we all don't know what we might do when we're placed in that same situation. I'm a former military officer. I got training for years on how to respond in war, in battle, facing down enemies, dodging bullets, hiding in holes. But that still never dictated exactly how I was going to respond in that moment. So I have great respect for our law enforcement community. But I don't have an expectation of them that is unreal. I realize that it's possible to make a misjudgment. I realize that it's possible to do the wrong thing after decades of training, because you really don't know how you're going to respond or what you're going to do until you're actually in that moment. And then when you're in that moment and you walk away, you're forever changed. If you take a person's life, it changes you. You don't get the opportunity to take that fact. So I don't think that they take that lightly. And I think for the few people that may not respect the badge that way, that we should have things in place to be able to identify them and help them if possible. But if not possible, I think that we should be very quick about addressing it and moving them on and not overlook that and protect that, because that puts us where we are today as a community. So I want to thank you, Kenneth, for the opportunity to speak, and I want to thank the law enforcement, all the clergy, and everyone.
But Pastor Ty and the rest of the clergy, thank you for being a part of the panel. I know 2 minutes is not much time, but what we're trying to do, get a snapshot and just showing that we can sit and have a conversation, and we don't have to agree. It's not about whether we agree or not. It's about having a conversation in a respectful, structured manner. And so I think as we continue on putting the Lord up front during these conversations, as we continue to put the layers back, we can deal with anything. So once again, we're going to please join me in a round of applause for our panel. And as mentioned, as we prep for the next action items. I know Pastor Ty here, I think, mentioned about, well, one of the things that's in the top 5 is some type of early warning tracking system. As you notice in Minneapolis, that incident involved someone having a pattern of misbehavior and they were still wearing the badge. From research going back to 1981, our country was kind of shifted to what is called EIS, Early Intervention System. That will track everything. Surprisingly, Minneapolis was one of the first few cities in the country that actually implemented that program. So policy is sometimes good, but if you don't have a mechanism to validate that they're working, the system might just be on paper, So I was talking to the chief about that, but when you guys have a process in place, but that's one thing, really, what's the top 5 of our communities, and they feel comfortable if we come back and learn more about this early intervention system and what type of transparency do we have, even from the mayor. I know the mayor, he appoints our police chiefs there, so I look forward to that conversation come next month. So we're at here on time here. We want to make sure we have our tell us what you think there. On our left and right, we have a mic stand on each side. Last time we did not have that much time left, so I just want to make sure I allocated time to hear from the community. Let's see a show of hands if you have taken this survey. Okay, majority of people take it. Okay, thank you. The reason I asked that question, if you haven't taken the survey, once again, with so much stuff going on in our state and country, it's easy. You drive on the wrong side of the road, that's illegal. Yeah, that's illegal. So we were trying to drive on the right side of the road, which is, what do you think about the survey as far as the action items that we already implemented and the direction we're trying to go for is continuing everyone in our community? Listen, if you're driving, first off, act right, But what we want to do in Pelham, we want to have a conversation with everyone. Okay? So in order for the change, for anything to change, we have to make sure we change too. So we want to continue to have a talk, but we want to have a talk with everyone. So that's with the education piece that we have there. And part of the education piece is not just one direction. It's coming back the other way. It's saying we want to educate them with the law enforcement expect, but at the same time, I'll put on the slide here, let me go back. I just want to kind of show, I think it's very important. This piece here, law, order, justice. But what are the best practices? Well, first, we got to make sure we get the driver, their rights. We got to educate people on that. Pastors got to know their rights and different than the drivers. We got to know that we do have certain constitutional rights as citizens, but how to balance it out with the law, order, and justice. So I'm really excited about the educational piece. So with that, I would ask if you what do you think first about the survey, and then anything else you may have in your mind about the law enforcement and racism in general. But once again, the goal is if you go outside Pelham, there's not too much we can do, but you want to share your thoughts on the national project I'm working on. But I'm not going to bring it in here today because we talk about local stuff in Pelham. So with that, if you would like to come to the mic. Okay, Jordan. I'm just going to turn you on and step back so that way I can maintain my 6 feet from you.
I guess I'll do the same thing other people did. I'm Joy Johnston. I've been in Pelham for 2011, I think is when I moved down here. Kenneth and I were neighbors for quite some time, and we've remained friends. So I actually work with law enforcement. I'm a forensic scientist and deal with the DUI testing program in the state. And so from that perspective, Kenneth had asked me if I wanted to be a panelist. And I was like, I don't look like the person who has a problem with law enforcement, even though I know some women have had issues, unfortunately. I have not. But since I've been in my job, I have realized there's a lot of things I learned about how law enforcement works and why they do what they do in a traffic stop, particularly when they suspect DUI, that I realized the community doesn't understand. And so the education part was my first thought too. And so I think maybe themes of different topics of this is what might happen here, this is what might happen here. I had a friend, I was at a friend's house one night, and another friend of mine somebody called the cops and reported a car that was weaving in the neighborhood. And it was my friend who they reported. So the cop came to the door and asked, I really don't remember if this was Pelham or Hoover. It's one of those neighborhoods that's kind of borderline, so it could have been a Pelham cop. But anyway, he came to the door and he asked, who drives this car? And so my friend went to the door and I kind of stood behind her. She's a very timid person and gets very nervous about things. But I knew what the problem was. It was very dark in the neighborhood and her eyesight is not the best in the world. But the cop stood and talked to her and asked her several questions. And we also had an attorney friend who was kind of behind my shoulder. And when he got done and left, he was very nice, I let her know, I said, don't be anxious or nervous. The reason he talked to you that long was because he wanted to make sure you were okay. He had heard a report and he was just giving himself time to check to make sure that you were actually okay. Because I've had a couple interactions where, your guard goes up, you get anxious. For me, I'm a goody two-shoes, want to follow the rules, and I get mad at myself when I don't follow the rules. But so that being said, just helping other citizens again continue to understand, why did the cop do this? Why did he stop me, or why did he spend that much time with me is helpful. And one other quick thing from another perspective, again, understanding that my perspective, I come from a place where I don't fit the mold of anybody who would be mistreated. But when I started my job, my boss reminded me, he said, from the perspective again of the whole DUI thing, he said, keep in mind, you're probably going to interact with judges, you're going to interact with lawyers, you're going to interact with cops. Don't put anybody on a pedestal. So Pastor Johnson, when you said that, there's a reminder that we are all people. And the guys who are wearing the badge, they've been in their job for years, and so their perspective has been the perspective of the badge for years. And some of them innocently can start acting in ways that they don't realize, I've gotten in this habit. But also, just because they have on a badge and a uniform doesn't mean that they're perfect. So they might be having a bad day. I know I have acted like a jerk to some of my coworkers before, and I have felt like they've done that to me before, and then I've gone back and apologized later, but I should not have acted that way to you. So I appreciate y'all's perspectives of just remembering, let's treat each other with respect and remember that there's other people who may not have that same perspective. So that was a lot to try to put in. So
Okay.
Thank you for doing this, Steve.
Well, thank you, Joy. Thanks for coming out and sharing. And let's go ahead to Mike. This one of our school board reps there.
Now, this will be hard since I'm so short.
You can put it down there. You can take it off that work.
Okay, I'll do that.
All right, turn it on here. On back.
Now it's on. Hi, my name's Bob O'Gill. That was my son over there, of whom I'm very proud. He's now embarrassed. So that's a privilege of a parent, is it not? So, but I just wanted to make an observation. I spent 30 years overall in the military, and I started off in the Marine Corps. And I learned very early on that we were all one color. It was olive green, and that for most of the part, that's how I was raised, because my father was a retired Marine. So a lot of people's visions or points of view about other folks are set up or established by their experiences. So the only thing that I would say is that I heard several people say that we are responsible for how that incident unfolds if we're stopped by the police. And I think it's very important that we recognize that as citizens, we have responsibilities. And we need to understand that we're responsible for what we do and how we handle things, and that the worst thing that we can do, I think, is to stereotype. If we stereotype African Americans in a certain way, then we're going to respond to them based upon that viewpoint. If we do police officers, we're going to do the same thing. If we stereotype short people, we're going to treat them a different way. So I'm just kidding. But anyway, I just want to point that out, that I thought that observation of hearing those a couple of folks mention that the situation unfolds based upon largely how we respond is important. And we need to put ourselves in other people's shoes and get beyond the color aspect, but at the same time try to understand different experiences. So, but anyway, thank you.
Well, Bob, thank you. If someone wants to speak on this side, you want to come up to the mic. On this side.
I just have.
He turned it off on you, didn't he?
I did, I'm sorry.
You know why he did that, right? No.
I did because I turned it on.
Well, okay, I have it now. It actually slides, it doesn't press. I just had a quick observation from the video of the traffic stop in question for the captain. I noted that in the video that there was no initial explanation given for the reason of the stop. And I'm curious to know if that is something that is a procedure that's established based on the particular precinct or the state, local, or city level. I've been stopped before and I've been immediately told while I was stopped. There have been times when I've been stopped before and I found out after they ran every piece of identification I had and there was nothing there, really that there was really no reason for the stop. So I'm kind of wondering if we have in place here in Pelham, because I know that's all that you can speak to, as far as that process of once an officer stops you, what are the rights that are respected, plays into a particular incident escalating, is the fact that most times they're not initially told why they were stopped. And I could be wrong, but that seems to be a very profound a thing that I see happen, that oftentimes people are stopped and they're not initially told. Like I think even Pastor Charlotte mentioned that she had someone that did that. And so in the sense of maintaining mutual respect and observing the law, I'd like to know what that policy is and how we're supposed to do that.
Okay, it's not necessarily a policy. Officers are encouraged specifically for that reason to identify themselves, let you know which department they are from, and the reason for the stop. And hopefully, through good communication skills and interaction, they allow whoever they're stopping to give an explanation of why. Because we want that human side of things. Attitude, just like you was talking about earlier, respect for each other goes a long way. I'm disheartened with your negative impression of an officer because of what he called you. It should be simple. If I tell you who I am, I'm about to find out who you are. So we have a human interaction here going on and a connection. If I tell you why I stopped you, then I'm educating you, not in a condescending way, but I'm letting you know, here's what you did wrong, here's how we can fix it. I don't have to give you a ticket on the side of the road. I can give you verbal warnings, I can give you written warnings. And if I've got you stopped on the side of the road with those pretty blue lights going, what are other drivers seeing as they're driving by? They're seeing someone stopped on the side of the road, a police officer doing their duties, and it's causing them to slow down. That's a win-win for me. I don't necessarily have to write you a ticket to achieve some safety in the traffic flow in the city of Pelham. So we encourage everyone to have that interaction and explain who they are, where they're from. They should be proud that they're with the Pelham Police Department, the greatest police department in the United States. But at the same time, explain to you what they're stopping you for and why it's wrong and how we can go about fixing it. But it's not necessarily a written policy, if that makes sense. So that's what we want everyone to do, because we want that interaction. Because if you and I are on a name basis, we're going to keep things de-escalated. We're not going to rise to yelling, screaming, and that's what it's all about, is communicating with each other and showing respect for one another.
All right, thanks. And I still don't know if you quite got your answer, or I'm not sure if I got it, because I was surprised. Texas, looking at this thing, is Texas about 4 years ago, through legislation, they actually passed legislation that they allow their academy to conduct similar training that we're doing here. It was only for the academy. And good training, but I was like, really could be for everyone else too. But one of the things that came out of that training, the videos they had, was in Texas. Once it shocked me. They stated, we don't have to tell you why we stopped you. But out of courtesy, we tell you. I'm like, wow. So you get stopped, they don't have to tell you why they stopped you. So that is a good question. So we will, as we continue this dialogue, we're going to dig into that a little bit more because it's very important that we know what to expect. And so that kind of goes to, okay, how can we make a implied policy of how we do business in the city limits of Pelham? You know, we're going to expect for officers to tell you, even though it's not a written legislation that they have to, but out of common courtesy, let's make sure we have an understanding. At the same time, we're going to educate our community to make sure that we be neutral and both respectful. I'm really shocked by Texas law that I don't have to tell you. It's not a law that I can stop you, ask me driver's license registration, and I don't tell you why I stopped you, but you have to comply. Hey, someone else had a hand up. Had a comment? Anyone else?
I go again.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't say everything. All right. Let's talk from this point to. All right. No, it's not. Okay, hope you all can hear me, but I wanted to speak a little bit more to the aspect of interactions between different races or different people of different cultural backgrounds, specifically within my school, because that's pretty much where I spend most of the year, and I'm proud of it. I love the school, Pelham City Schools, but specifically on the soccer team and in one of my clubs, the book club, and I'm also in the peer helpers, and so is Eva back there. I'm proud, man. I could call her out and let's see her. This one's not really working, but that's okay. So, I'm proud to be in the peer helpers, but in the book club specifically, we get to have conversation on a similar level as we're having here about, in most cases, less serious, but at the same time, because we're reading we're reading books that discuss serious thematic ideas, we really do get to delve into serious conversations at times about the human experience, which is why I enjoy book club. As long as you enjoy reading. But the thing is, the conversations we have are for people, whether you enjoy reading or not. And there was one book we read that specifically focused on the idea of racism in the United States, and the book was called "Small Great Things" by last name Nicole. Can't remember her first name, but regardless, because of the focus of the book in book club, we had the opportunity to ask everyone who attended the meeting what their experiences with racism were in their life, exactly what we're doing here. And we had a variety of answers. Mostly, we're focusing on the minorities, I guess, non-white groups, just for the sake of to bring to light things that the rest of us may not be aware of. And what surprised me is that there were some answers that I expected. I believe one Hispanic student commented that they experienced ridicule in public for not speaking English, for speaking Spanish, which to me, in some instances, it makes sense to me, and it also shows another instance of not being willing to respect another person's nationality. There are that's a very specific circumstance that could be talked about more. But to move on, another student answered that they actually had experienced more racism from their own race for acting like the other race, for acting white, per se. They're African American so to me that shows that we can stereotype someone, as my dad and as we have all been saying, anyone for any number of reasons, whether it's their color or whether it's the way they look when we first see them, if they're slouched or if they're wearing a certain type of clothing. And I think because we, I think, can all agree that every person is unique, to stereotype someone in any way boxes them in and restricts them, and it totally puts a barrier between us and them in any further relational building. And so I just want to bring up, by going to the soccer team, so my experiences on a team show me that every person plays a certain position when you're on a team, correct? I mean, most of us have either played a sport or we've worked in some sort of team at work, and we all are in a certain position.
So we're all expected to play a certain role. So in a community, I believe we're a team that has to work. Some of us are business leaders, some of us are police officers, firefighters, but sometimes the goal that we're working to isn't always so clear, so it's harder to work together. There's not a clear goal. So events like this, which help us come together, help more clearly define that goal that we're working towards, getting to know each other, but also having events where we can maybe clean up streets or help those in need, give us more clear goals that force us, in a sense, hopefully not so strongly, but allow us to come together and take advantage of each other's unique abilities and then appreciate each other more. I can help with that.
Well, that one of the things, it's always great to hear from our, we call a younger generation, because, you know, some of us older people, I think, is set in their ways. You know, we have people living in our city that's back in the blue collar days here. Pastor Jerry?
Yes, name is Jerry McLean. The captain brought up something that I thought was a key issue and key concern, I believe, because one of the things I find that when there's a situation in the community or a situation in the department involving an officer, is people don't understand those timelines, people don't understand those, we don't get it that why wasn't he arrested? We don't get why, why, we heard nothing, why are they still free? Why are they still on the street? Why? So I think one of the things that we should maybe advocate for is something to educate the public on the process, because you made a motive about legal issues. Legally we can't do this legally because you're bound by a lot of regulations. I get that. So I think we gotta, it's not enough to expect us to understand when you're in the incident, when we got a crisis. We're not gonna understand, community's not gonna understand why, just like what we've seen across the country and stuff. So I think it's wise that we try and create some of these things educationally, where people are aware. Well, this is what happened. We have rules that we can't impose, on the rights of that individual, innocent proven guilty. You just have a whole litany of things, and so I'm hoping that maybe there's some case studies of things that have been done, that have happened, and we can look at it and say, okay, well, this is what they did, do you agree, do you not agree? But sort of educate us from that perspective would be something that I would highly encourage and recommend.
Okay, well, thanks, Pastor Jerry. Once again, I think it's great. That's good information to know. I know you hear oftentimes, release the video, and as you indicated, it's a legal process for that. And a lot of people don't understand that. So back what Pastor Jerry is saying is, as we continue brainstorming ways how we can build relationships and trust, it is say, okay, here's an example in a scenario, and here's what we can do, here's what we can't do. So now we do it better, we can understand. Even if you still disagree, you have a better understanding of the process. So definitely thanks. Anyone online, any question you send online?
I just put out a message a few minutes ago. I haven't had anything.
And once again, I appreciate everyone coming out. And I know sometimes people that come, they expect to get something different, but my goal, vision, is to enhance our relationship, enhance the relationship between the law enforcement and the community. And during that process, what we're doing, we actually enhances our relationship within the community, with other parts of the community, our schools. Just like talking about our school, they're like, listen, we're gonna be part of this conversation later.
Can we invite a firefighter next time? Just because I've never actually met one. I don't think, except for, I don't think I've actually got to introduce myself to one before.
So you haven't said anything on fire like that, is that correct? No. But answer your question, well, yes, we love you, right? Walk in their shoes, and once again, their experiences, because once again, they work hand in hand with law enforcement out there, so it's a great point there. And before we go to what's next, I'm going to back up, and I know our local leaders are going to forget about it, but I'm going to back up here. Okay, our community feel that here's their top five. And improve police policies and procedures, particularly prioritizing the use of force and preserving life. It might have to come back to the chief, to the Capitol here, because I got several phone calls, emails on this. He said, why can't you shoot the wounded in the leg? I said, that's not how it works, but you can prioritize the use of force. And then the last one here, I think the city council might have this in the budget coming to them. If not, I'm giving out too much information. But on every single officer to include the 911 dispatchers, but that costs money. So our elected officials is request by our community.
I'll say issues from my side.
What's that?
One of the things that I'm passionate about is continuing conversation, continuing building the bridges. And I think as we understand each other, this setting is a great setting, but we need to go out and have this conversation